clips on the new leash and then unclips the old leash. So when Ranger is stationary, I can move around. Usually what I do with the back leash skills is that I shorten the line up back to basic position, so I'm standing relatively near them. So the cool thing about the leash skills is that if I were to explore this whole, let him explore this whole area, I don't even need to move, right? So I don't need to get in his way or tell him which way to go. He's completely free to be his own dog. At this point, I'm going to go a little bit closer to him, just because that gives him even more range of motion if he wanted to go that way, for example. Okay, so the leash goes, I have all of this piece in one hand, and then the other part is my braking hand. I use my right hand for the handle because I tore my shoulder while rock climbing, and so it's my weaker arm. This is my stronger arm, which is here. So I also have a knot tied in the leash here, in case he were to pull and have something to grab. If I need to get his attention, oops, not there, because there's treats. I can do mind pulling, which are the slides on the leash, and then use my body to get his attention. Notice that if I go over here, he's probably now going to go to these lines next. Because I'm biasing him in that direction. Well, not that, but at least not over there. Right? So he's generally going in the same direction as me. And with that, it's important that you pay attention to that because we can accidentally lead dogs toward triggers. So our back setup should look pretty much like this when he's going in a neutral direction, or let the line out, and then gather up the line when I catch up with him. It's like, oh my God, this is the best day ever. So again, if I wanted to do line pulling, I gather up the line, get into his peripheral vision, make sure my balance is good. He said, nope, I'm not going with you. Alright. Long line, you can also sneak away from them like this. So again, I'm biasing and going this direction. If I want to change his direction, I would go this way, which again biases him this way. So again, with the line leash, you want to make sure you're not leading them towards something dangerous. Notice is that the floor is a little bit of concern to him. He likes walking in the blue a little bit better. And so this allows him to walk on the surface without being really led onto it. So if he wants to go on, then he can. But I'm not biasing myself so that he has to. So that is really boring. Sorry, it doesn't look like this zippy running around dog. It looks like a dog who just explores the world. And that's what we want, is a dog who is capable of doing things on his own. And then in between, you can do things like here. He said, actually, I don't know yet. Is this Ranger? I'm sure he knows it's over with his mom, and maybe not coming out of the speaker. So I usually do a little bit of formal training, and then back to just back style walking, our regular walk. So if these were people, and we were walking around here, so each of these clients was a person, then I might want to avoid them and not let my dog go up and sniff them, right? So let's do this thing. We're going to start by walking through the room. 2, 5. Good job. You don't have to be a heel. So if that was a person, I would just keep him from jumping up. I might call him or 2 regular dog training, right? Targeting any of those. He's totally just jumped on his child. While I was busy talking. So, and then now let's say that's a tree, so I can let him go up to that. Right? So you just switch back and forth between a shorter ride and a longer ride when you're doing that. Or we can use the back just goes on the line. Alright, any questions? Can you also put some more treats out for him? Questions? Yeah. Yep. So if you're doing this, how do you remember which one was an outside loop and which was an inside loop? So one way to do that is to basically just separate your hands. And so here it's coming out of the pinky, so I know that I need to have the next one come from the pinky. And if I do this, then it's like, okay, the next one needs to be back up. Other questions? For those of you who were not at the talk before, the reason that I hold the leash like this with these bows is because I want to make sure that I don't break any fingers. Right? If you do it this way, the dog might pull and break my fingers. So I make sure that it's not wrapped around my fingers whatsoever. So let's do some slow stops maybe. So after he's moving again, I'll do a slow stop and then relax the leash. And bias him to walk in this direction. So this happens a lot, like if there was a trigger over there, the dog is sniffing and the person sort of just like accidentally leads them toward the trigger. Oh, I'll go this way, right? So I'll do a slow stop. Relax the line. So here my elbow is out. He worked really strong pulling. That wouldn't work, right? So I'm going to keep my elbows in. The fact that it was really hard to stop him would mean that I was too close to a trigger. Okay. So if you're trying to do a slow stop and then go right back, that means you're too close. Okay. Other questions? Yeah. Okay.
So how can we maybe continue to use a long line since he wants to let him sniff, but he knows that he's sniffing out cat food.
Okay. So in this case, I have a dog who's sniffing, which would be appropriate on walk, but he's eating cat food instead. Gotcha. So you know that that's what he's hunting. So one would be to try to find an area and maybe box it where it's not happening. If it's happening out on walks, oh, that's not, sorry. Of course you can go there. If it's happening out on walks, then you might want to either make sure that he's well fed in advance, because that can help. Potentially conditioning to where so at least he's not getting reinforced by getting them. And then also working on cat poop as a signal. So it's basically making a cat poop search and rescue dog. So having a signal to you, hey, I just found some cat poop and I get steak instead. Oh, sorry, buddy. I don't know why I just told on you, but you can go back. All right. So in my vision of what was just happening, he was heading toward the trigger. So I did a slow stop, but I'm just going to go back to letting him wander again. Because he wasn't really pulling. He was just going faster than me, which is why I could keep it long. All right, other questions? So keeping it off the ground so the dog doesn't step on it. Yes, question over there. Does this help with anxiety to be? Yeah, so that is, sorry, for those who weren't at the top before. Yeah, so that is a technique for frustration, fear, and aggression. So anytime arousal is kind of higher than you would expect it to be in a certain situation. So I use it with either without a trigger like this, where they're just wandering around the park to get used to the space that's there. I mean, of course, there are triggers, but not all of you arranged. It's also good for shelter dogs to get exercise versus just having to be healed the whole time. But yeah, it's very, very good for anxiety. And if you have dogs who are anxious outside, you can do an activity like this inside, and then start to transition. So leave the door open, put a couple of ponds outside, or toys outside, and then build from there. You don't have to use climbs, right? That's what we have here today. So just enrich it with anything. So I would use like boxes or rabbit holes in them, or like fur that you get from a groomer or whatever else. But maybe your backyard where you're interested in doing box like this is also good to teach this concept. So here, notice again, once he's stopped, then I go back into basic position so that he's got maximum range of movement. So if I was really doing a back setup, he wouldn't have made that tight leash the entire time because there's not really any triggers in this space. There's a trigger outside, then I would do a slow stop if he's headed toward that. So I think we're good. Wait, one more question? Gotcha. How would I deal with a dog who's highly reactive and redirects back toward me in this situation? So when a dog is sniffing around eating treats, he's redirecting back to you? Gotcha. So he's seeing trigger like another dog and then redirecting back to you. So I very rarely see that unless the dog is having history of corrections, right? So positive training, that's not really something that dogs would do. With the long line, I find that they would probably do that even less because they are further away. It's usually redirection is sort of an instant like reflex that they're right here and they bite at you. Oh, sorry, I didn't let you go to your mom again.
He was like, hey, I'm getting more treats over here.
Anyway, so this kind of walking does tend to make them learn that they're not going to engage a bunch of corrections. And so that can help a lot. I also condition my muzzle so that they're very safe. And then really make sure that when you're working, that the trigger is far enough away that the arousal level doesn't go up. Yeah. And then teaching other coping skills like, really solid, sit, stay, and that kind of thing. If that was forgetting about who's really coming at. All right, I think we're at time. Is that true? Okay. Let's go back to Mama. So stop.
Let's give one more nice round of applause for Trisha and Major.
Oh, they said, I don't know where Trisha is. She's coming out of all the secrets. All right, thank you.